The working man's lunch, a simple phrase that brings to mind an era when meals were about sustenance, comfort, and practicality. It wasn't about trends or food fads. It was about getting through the day with a meal that didn't require much fuss, but packed in all the energy and flavor needed to tackle the tasks ahead. These lunches were often a reflection of the hardworking spirit of the time. No frills, just good, honest food. But as the years have gone by, these humble meals have slowly faded into the background, overshadowed by the allure of fast food, quick bites, and Instagram-worthy dishes. Take a moment to picture the scene. A worn lunchbox, maybe metal, maybe faded vinyl, packed with a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, a thermos of iced tea or coffee, and perhaps a piece of fruit or a homemade cookie, tucked in as a little sweet treat. The smell of cold fried chicken, the crunch of a perfectly made PB&J, or the heartwarming scent of chili and cornbread, filling the air as a break from the grind. These were the meals that took no more than a few minutes to prepare, but their satisfaction ran deep. They kept men, and women in those days, on their feet all day, whether they were swinging hammers on construction sites, packing boxes in factories, or hammering away at desks in office buildings. There was no fanfare, no luxury, just good, hearty food to keep you moving. Fast forward to today, and we're often too busy to even think about packing a proper lunch. The days of sitting down to a homemade meal at noon have been replaced by grab-and-go options, or something hastily eaten at a desk between meetings. The lunches of yesteryear, like a good old-fashioned ham salad sandwich or leftover meatloaf between two slices of bread, have fallen by the wayside in favor of convenience over substance. But that's a shame. There's something comforting about these meals, something deeply nostalgic and practical. So let's take a step back in time. Let's revisit 25 working man's lunches that have all but disappeared from our lunch breaks. These were the meals that didn't need to impress. They just needed to fill you up, make you smile, and carry you through the workday. Maybe, just maybe, it's time we brought them back. Dish 1, the classic ham salad sandwich. Let's start with a lunch that was both beloved and common, the classic ham salad sandwich. This humble sandwich was a working man's midday companion. Simple and satisfying, it combined ham, mayo, mustard, and pickles between two slices of soft white bread. Found in lunchboxes across America, especially in the 1950s and 1960s, it provided just the right balance of flavors and textures to fuel a long workday. The charm of the ham salad sandwich was in its simplicity and versatility. It could be made ahead of time, stored in the fridge, and kept fresh until the next day's lunch. The creamy mayo balanced the salty ham, while the mustard added a tangy bite. Pickles, whether sweet or dill, brought a burst of flavor and crunch that contrasted perfectly with the soft bread. There were no frills, just basic ingredients that came together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. For many working-class families, deli ham was a staple, often used for sandwiches or larger meals. Leftover ham made the ham salad sandwich possible, turning scraps into a delicious meal. You didn't need pre-made cold cuts or fancy ingredients. Just a chunk of ham, some mayo, and a few pantry staples were all you needed. The bread wasn't artisan, but it was soft and sturdy enough to hold the generous amount of ham salad piled onto it. The sandwich wasn't large, but it was enough to satisfy. It was also portable, perfect for lunchboxes or taking to the work site. Whether you were on a factory break, at the construction yard, or at a desk, the ham salad sandwich was the ideal midday treat. To make it, chop leftover ham into small bits, add mayo and mustard, and toss in chopped pickles. Season with salt and pepper, and that's it. A no-fuss, filling meal that could carry you through the rest of your busy day. The ham salad sandwich, though simple, still carries the same sense of satisfaction. Even in today's world of more complex lunch ideas, there's something about this basic sandwich that feels like home. It's a reminder of simpler times, when a quick bite could bring comfort during hard work. Perhaps it's time to bring this classic back. Dish 2, cold fried chicken. Cold fried chicken. Now there's a working man's lunch that's built for stamina. It's the kind of meal that doesn't need much explanation. Its appeal is instantly understood. Who didn't love a piece of crispy, golden fried chicken, whether it was hot off the pan or cold the next day, packed into a lunchbox for a well-earned break? There was something about the contrast of the crunchy exterior and the juicy, tender meat inside that made it a favorite among laborers, truck drivers, office workers, and just about anyone who needed a hearty lunch to power through their day. Fried chicken was, and still is, a comforting meal, but when it was packed up the night before and eaten cold, it became a lunch staple. The key to cold fried chicken's charm was that it didn't lose any of its magic after cooling down. The skin, still crisp from the fry, held up remarkably well. Meanwhile, the chicken's juices, having settled into the meat, kept it flavorful and moist, making it even more satisfying than a sandwich or salad. It was the ultimate grab-and-go meal, easy to eat with one hand, on a break or in between tasks. For many working families, fried chicken was a Sunday dinner staple, made in large batches, so there was plenty left over for lunches during the week. It was a dish that stretched beyond the dinner table and into the lunchbox. You could pair it with a side of pickles, some coleslaw, or maybe a biscuit or two, but even on its own, cold fried chicken was perfectly satisfying. Making fried chicken for lunch wasn't a complicated affair. It all started with simple ingredients: chicken pieces, flour, spices, and oil for frying. The magic was in the process. The flour coating, seasoned with salt, pepper, and a bit of paprika, created that crispy crust that would hold up even after sitting in the fridge overnight. The chicken itself was cooked until golden brown, with the right amount of seasoning to make each bite pop. No need for fancy marinades or exotic spices, just a little time, some oil, and the right technique. Cold fried chicken was a taste of yesterday's work, a meal that didn't ask for much, but gave you everything you needed to get through the rest of the day. And while it may have fallen out of favor in today's world of fast food and pre-packed salads, there's no denying that, sometimes, the best lunch is the one that keeps things simple. Cold fried chicken may have disappeared from the modern lunch scene, but it's still a meal that deserves to be rediscovered. It was a working man's lunch then, and it would be a welcome one again. Dish 3. Meatloaf Sandwich. The meatloaf sandwich, an unsung hero of working-class lunches, often born from the leftovers of a hearty Sunday dinner. Meatloaf, with its tender, flavorful filling, could be eaten fresh from the oven, but its true genius came to life when it was sliced thick and stuffed between two pieces of bread the next day. A meatloaf sandwich was simple, satisfying, and guaranteed to keep a working man fueled for the day ahead. Meatloaf is one of those dishes that's deceptively easy to make, but always manages to hit the spot. The ground beef, or a mix of beef and pork, was mixed with breadcrumbs, eggs, onions, and a few seasonings. That's it. No fancy ingredients or elaborate techniques. But the real magic was in the oven, where it would bake up into a tender, savory loaf with a caramelized, slightly sweet glaze on top, often made with a bit of ketchup or brown sugar. The meatloaf could be served hot with mashed potatoes and gravy for dinner, but once it had cooled down, those thick slices of leftovers made the perfect sandwich filling. When packed into a lunchbox, the meatloaf sandwich was like a portable version of comfort. The bread acted as the perfect vessel, absorbing just enough of the juices from the meat without falling apart. Whether you used plain white bread or a hearty roll, the meatloaf held its own. The key was to slice it thick, not too thin, so it stayed substantial and satisfying, but not so thick that it couldn't be easily eaten with one hand. Add a bit of ketchup or mustard if you liked, and you had a lunch that was both filling and nostalgic. What made the meatloaf sandwich so popular in the working man's lunch was its practicality. It could be made in advance, and the leftovers could feed you for days. No need to worry about refrigeration, as the sandwich held up well even when packed the night before. It was also a great way to stretch ingredients and make the most out of a meal, ensuring that no food went to waste. In today's fast-paced world, where meal prep often means throwing together a salad or grabbing a processed snack, the humble meatloaf sandwich feels like a reminder of simpler times. It's not just food, it's a piece of history, a lunch that was as much about practicality as it was about comfort. And while the meatloaf sandwich may have faded from many modern lunchboxes, it's a classic that's always worth bringing back. Dish 4. Tuna salad on lettuce. Tuna salad on lettuce, a lunch that, for many, embodies the perfect combination of simplicity and satisfaction. It wasn't just a meal, it was a practical solution for workers looking for something easy, filling, and a little bit healthier. Made with canned tuna, mayonnaise, and a handful of pantry staples, tuna salad didn't require much preparation or cooking, yet it was comforting in its own right, and when served on a crisp bed of lettuce, it became a light yet hearty meal that could be enjoyed even in the heat of summer. Tuna salad had been a go-to lunch for generations, especially during the mid-20th century, when canned foods were a staple of the American kitchen. The tuna itself was always the star of the dish, mild, flaky, and just the right texture to mix with the creamy mayonnaise. Add a touch of mustard or relish, and you've got a meal that's tangy, savory, and full of flavor without being overwhelming. Some families even added a bit of chopped celery or onion for crunch, but the simplicity was always the charm. No need for complicated ingredients or hours spent preparing. Just open a can, mix it up, and it's ready to go. What made tuna salad on lettuce so ideal for the working man's lunch was its portability. It didn't require reheating, and it could be made the night before without losing any of its flavor or texture. Whether you were working in a factory, on a construction site, or even at an office desk, this meal was easy to pack, easy to eat, and easy to store. It was also versatile. You could scoop the salad onto a whole leaf of iceberg lettuce or a handful of baby greens, creating a light and refreshing lunch that didn't leave you feeling sluggish. The lettuce, of course, wasn't just there for decoration. Its crispness offered a perfect contrast to the creamy tuna salad, giving the dish a balance of textures that made each bite feel satisfying and refreshing. Some folks even wrapped the tuna salad inside the lettuce for a quick, handheld meal that could be eaten with one hand while the other was still busy working. Tuna salad on lettuce may have fallen out of favor in today's world of quick snacks and takeout, but it was once a beloved lunch that filled bellies and kept workers moving through the day. There's something wonderfully nostalgic about this simple, no-frills meal, a reminder that sometimes the best lunches are the ones that don't need to be complicated. Dish 5, chili and cornbread. Chili and cornbread, a combination that has long been a symbol of hearty, working-class meals. This dynamic duo was a go-to lunch for many, especially during colder months or when a heavy-duty meal was needed to keep the energy up for a long workday. The rich, savory depth of chili with its spicy kick and tender meat, paired with the slightly sweet, crumbly cornbread, created a meal that was both satisfying and comforting. It wasn't just food, it was fuel. Chili, in its simplest form, is a combination of ground meat, beans, tomatoes, and a handful of spices. It's the kind of dish that doesn't require much in terms of high-end ingredients, just ground beef or pork, a can of tomatoes, a can of kidney beans, and the right blend of chili powder, cumin, and maybe a little cayenne pepper for heat. But the magic of chili lies in its slow simmering. As it cooks, the flavors meld together, creating a rich, smoky, savory bowl of warmth that could feed a crowd. The beauty of chili is that it can be made in large batches, stretching beyond one meal, making it perfect for leftovers. And that's where the magic of chili and cornbread comes in, because this was a lunch that could easily be packed up in the morning, ready to be heated at the worksite or at home. Leftover chili tasted just as good, if not better, the next day, and when paired with cornbread, it was the ideal way to fill up without feeling overly stuffed. Cornbread, with its sweet, crumbly texture, complemented the hearty chili in the best way. While chili brought the savory, spicy flavors, cornbread added a touch of sweetness and a satisfying contrast in texture. A thick slice of cornbread, whether soft and moist or with a bit of a crispy edge, could be dipped into the chili, soaking up that rich sauce and adding an extra layer of satisfaction with every bite. Some workers even crumbled the cornbread right into the chili, creating a blend of flavors and textures that felt like a warm hug on a cold day. Chili and cornbread were both practical and affordable. They didn't demand much time or money to make, but offered a meal that was filling and substantial. For a working man, it was the kind of lunch that provided lasting energy without breaking the bank. Whether you were sitting at a picnic table during a break or eating it out of a thermos on the job, chili and cornbread was the ultimate working man's meal, a reminder of simple pleasures, hard work, and comfort in every bite. Dish 6, PB&J with a side of chips. Sometimes, the simplest lunches are the best. A peanut butter and jelly sandwich, with its creamy, sweet, and salty balance, was a classic working man's lunch that required no effort, but always delivered satisfaction. It was quick, portable, and filling, making it the perfect solution when time was tight, or when the budget was tight too. Whether you were on a factory line, working on a construction site, or eating at a desk between meetings, the humble PB&J always had your back. The beauty of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich was in its minimalism. You didn't need to worry about any fancy ingredients or special techniques. It was just peanut butter, smooth or crunchy, depending on your preference, spread generously over a slice of bread, followed by a thick layer of your favorite jam or jelly. Grape, strawberry, raspberry, take your pick. The bread, soft and pillowy, held everything together, creating a sandwich that could be eaten with one hand, leaving the other free for a cup of coffee or a notebook. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches weren't just for kids. For the working man, it was a quick and reliable meal that could be thrown together in a matter of minutes, with no muss and no fuss. It didn't matter if it was a busy workday or if you were just looking for something to hold you over before heading home for dinner. PB&J was there for you. It could be packed in a lunchbox or brown paper bag, eaten on a quick break, or savored slowly in the middle of a hectic day. What made this sandwich even better was the addition of a side of chips, whether they were salty potato chips or the crinkly ridged kind. They added the perfect crunch to contrast with the creamy peanut butter and the sweet jelly. Chips were the perfect partner to the PB&J, adding a savory balance to the sandwich's sweetness and making the meal feel complete. Though PB&J may not seem as glamorous as some of the other lunches on this list, it was certainly one of the most reliable. It didn't require refrigeration, it didn't spoil easily, and it always left you feeling satisfied without weighing you down. It was the working man's lunch, simple yet reliable, satisfying yet efficient. Proof that you don't need anything fancy to make a lunch truly great. In the fast-paced world we live in today, maybe we all need to take a note from this classic and embrace the joy of simplicity every once in a while. Dish 7. Egg Salad Sandwich. The egg salad sandwich, another lunchbox classic that embodied comfort and simplicity, yet never failed to deliver. It was the kind of meal that filled you up without asking for much in return. Made with just a few ingredients, hard-boiled eggs, mayonnaise, mustard, and maybe a pinch of salt and pepper. Egg salad was the epitome of resourceful, no-frills cooking. It was a reliable favorite for the working man, especially when time was short, or when you needed a meal that could be prepped the night before. Eggs were a staple in many households. Affordable, versatile, and easy to prepare, they were the foundation of so many quick meals, and egg salad was one of the best ways to use them. Hard-boiled eggs, with their firm whites and creamy yolks, provided the perfect base for this simple salad. When combined with mayo, mustard, and seasoning, the mixture became smooth, tangy, and rich, a delightful contrast to the crunch of the bread that housed it. Whether you preferred a little extra mustard for tang or a spoonful of pickle relish for a touch of sweetness, the egg salad could easily be customized to suit personal tastes. The egg salad sandwich was more than just a quick lunch. It was an easy way to stretch ingredients and feed a family. The mayo made the eggs go further, turning a couple of hard-boiled eggs into a hearty filling that could be spread generously between 2 slices of bread. It was filling, satisfying, and didn't require any complicated techniques. Just chop, mix, and spread. Whether served on soft white bread, a hearty whole grain, or even a buttered roll, the sandwich was as easy as it was delicious. For the working man, the egg salad sandwich had practical appeal. It could be made ahead of time, kept in the fridge, and packed into a lunchbox or wrapped in wax paper. It didn't need to be reheated, and the ingredients were readily available and inexpensive. It was also versatile, lending itself to variations depending on what you had on hand. Chopped onions, celery, or a sprinkle of paprika could be added for extra flavor. While today's lunchboxes might be filled with more exotic options, the egg salad sandwich remains a nostalgic reminder of the simple pleasures of working-class lunches. It was quick, it was filling, and above all, it was dependable. And sometimes, that's all you really need in a good lunch. Dish 8, Beef and Potato Stew. Beef and potato stew. Now, there's a meal that could stand the test of a long, hard day's work. This hearty dish was the kind of comfort food that filled you up and kept you going through the afternoon without weighing you down. Made from just a few simple ingredients, it was the working man's version of a full, satisfying meal. Tender chunks of beef, soft potatoes, and a savory broth. There's something so wholesome about this dish that it's impossible to forget once you've had it. Beef and potato stew was a one-pot wonder that made good use of affordable ingredients. The beef, often stew meat or cheaper cuts like chuck, would simmer in a pot for hours until it became tender and full of flavor. As it cooked, the broth absorbed all the richness of the beef, creating a savory base that was perfect for soaking up the starchy goodness of the potatoes. Carrots and onions were often added, bringing a bit of sweetness and color to the mix, but the true stars of the dish were always the beef and potatoes. What made this stew especially great for the working man's lunch was its practicality. It could be made in a big batch, meaning you had plenty of leftovers for the next day. The stew would taste just as good, if not better, the second time around, after the flavors had had a chance to meld overnight. It was easy to pack up in a thermos or Tupperware container and brought to work, ready to be reheated and enjoyed on a break. The smell of that simmering beef stew could make any worksite feel a little more like home. The potatoes were key to the dish. When they cooked down in the broth, they absorbed the rich flavors from the beef and the seasonings, making every bite satisfying and hearty. Whether you used russet potatoes, red potatoes, or Yukon Golds, each variety added its own unique texture, but all of them turned soft and creamy after slow cooking. Beef and potato stew was a meal designed to stretch. It didn't take much to make a hearty pot, and the leftovers would last for days, making it a cost-effective option. It was comforting, filling, and exactly what a working man needed to get through the day. Simple, no-nonsense ingredients turned into something extraordinary And that's what made beef and potato stew such a lasting favorite. It wasn't just lunch, it was a tradition. Dish 9, Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes. Now there's a lunch that's as fun to eat as it is to say. The combination of savory ground beef, tangy tomato sauce, and a few simple seasonings piled high on a soft hamburger bun made Sloppy Joes a lunchtime favorite for generations of working men and women. It was a quick, satisfying, and hearty meal that could be thrown together with minimal effort, yet delivered a taste that stuck with you long after the meal was over. Sloppy Joes were born from humble ingredients, but that's what made them so perfect for a working-class lunch. Ground beef, cheap and easy to find, was the star of the dish. It was browned up and then simmered in a sweet and tangy sauce made from ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, mustard, and a touch of brown sugar. This mixture melded together into a rich, flavorful sauce that coated the meat and transformed it into something special. Onions, bell peppers, and sometimes garlic were added to give the sauce extra depth, but at its core, a good Sloppy Joe recipe was all about balancing the sweet, savory, and slightly tangy flavors in that thick, messy sauce. What made Sloppy Joes so popular among working people was their simplicity and the fact that they could be made in big batches, stretching a small amount of meat to feed a crowd. It was a meal that could be cooked up quickly and served without much fuss. Plus, Sloppy Joes were perfect for a packed lunch. They traveled well and didn't require any sides or fancy accompaniments to be satisfying. A simple potato chip or a pickle on the side was all you needed to complete the meal. The bread, usually a soft hamburger bun, was essential for soaking up that deliciously messy filling. You could eat it with one hand while you worked with the other. No need for a fork or knife. There was something comforting about Sloppy Joes. They were food for the soul. They reminded you of family dinners, neighborhood cookouts, and school cafeterias, where the first bite was always the messiest. The joy of a Sloppy Joe wasn't just in the flavor, it was in the act of eating it, with all its mess and flavor-packed goodness. Sloppy Joes might not be the most refined lunch, but they're certainly one of the most satisfying. Quick, easy, and downright delicious, they were the perfect working man's lunch, packed with flavor and ready to fuel the rest of the day. And sometimes, there's nothing better than a meal that's both satisfying and a little bit messy. Dish 10, Roast Beef and Swiss Sandwich. The roast beef and Swiss sandwich. Now that's a classic lunch that never goes out of style. Simple, straightforward, and hearty, this sandwich was a lunchbox staple for many working men throughout the decades. Whether served cold or quickly reheated, it offered a balance of savory beef, creamy Swiss cheese, and just enough mustard or mayo to tie it all together. This was the kind of sandwich that provided both comfort and sustenance without being too fussy or complicated. Roast beef, tender and flavorful, was the hero of the sandwich. It wasn't just any beef either. It was typically a well-seasoned, slow-roasted cut, often made at home, and sliced thinly to create a stackable, manageable filling. The richness of the beef paired perfectly with the smooth, nutty Swiss cheese, which added a touch of creaminess and just enough of a mild bite to balance the savory meat. The combination of these two ingredients, along with the tang of mustard or the creaminess of mayo, made each bite perfectly satisfying. The beauty of the roast beef and Swiss sandwich lay in its versatility. It could be made quickly with leftover roast beef from Sunday dinner or prepared fresh, depending on the time available. The bread choice could range from soft white to crusty rolls or even rye, depending on preference. But the key was the quality of the beef and cheese. Nothing too fancy, but it had to be fresh and flavorful. If you were feeling extra, a slice of tomato or a few leaves of lettuce could be added, but this sandwich didn't need much to shine. For the working man, this sandwich was perfect. It was filling enough to keep you energized through the afternoon, but not too heavy that it left you sluggish. It was a great make-ahead meal. Roast beef could be prepared in bulk, and the sandwiches assembled the night before for easy packing in a lunchbox or bag. A side of chips, a pickle, or even a piece of fruit complemented the sandwich perfectly, creating a balanced meal that was easy to take on the go. In an era where lunches were often about practicality and simplicity, the roast beef and Swiss sandwich stood as a reliable, no-nonsense choice. It was satisfying, easy to make, and undeniably delicious, a timeless working man's lunch that still holds up today. Dish 11, Baked Ziti. Baked Ziti, an Italian-American classic that was as hearty as it was affordable. This pasta dish became a mainstay for working men and families across the country, especially during those chilly months when a warm, filling meal was needed to keep the energy up for the rest of the day. The beauty of baked ziti lies in its simplicity. Ziti pasta, marinara sauce, ricotta cheese, mozzarella, and a hearty layer of Parmesan. It's one of those dishes that doesn't ask for much, but delivers comfort with every bite. For many, baked ziti was the kind of dish that could be made ahead of time and reheated the next day, making it an ideal choice for a packed lunch. It could easily be prepared in a large batch, ensuring that there were leftovers to carry you through the week. There's something about the combination of pasta and cheese bubbling away in a hot oven that just feels like home, like the kind of meal you'd want to enjoy after a long day on the job. To make baked ziti, you start with ziti pasta, which is perfect for holding on to that rich, flavorful marinara sauce. The sauce itself is simple: tomato, garlic, and herbs simmered together until thick and fragrant. You mix it with ricotta cheese, which adds a creamy richness to the dish, then layer it with mozzarella and Parmesan, which melt into a gooey golden crust when baked. The oven does the work, turning all those ingredients into a bubbling, cheesy masterpiece. What made baked ziti such a great working man's lunch was that it could easily be made in a big pan and then sliced into portions. You didn't need to worry about keeping it hot for long periods because it was just as good when reheated. For many workers, a slice of this cheesy pasta was a warm, comforting treat that brought a taste of family dinner into the middle of the workday. Paired with a simple side salad or a few slices of garlic bread, it was the kind of meal that filled you up and kept you satisfied for hours. Baked ziti was a no-fuss meal, one that you could make on a Sunday and look forward to all week. It was filling, comforting, and always a hit, whether enjoyed fresh from the oven or packed into a lunchbox for later. This is the kind of dish that never went out of style, and even today, it's still a favorite for anyone looking for a meal that's both satisfying and easy to prepare. Dish 12, ham and cheese melt. The ham and cheese melt, a simple yet undeniably satisfying working man's lunch. This sandwich has been a favorite for decades, offering the perfect combination of savory ham, melted cheese, and toasted bread. It's a lunch that doesn't ask for much, but always delivers. Easy to make, easy to eat, and filling enough to get you through the rest of your workday. Whether it's tucked into a brown paper bag or stacked high for a quick bite at home, the ham and cheese melt has stood the test of time. What makes the ham and cheese melt so beloved is its versatility. It's the kind of sandwich that can be made with whatever you have on hand. Whether it's deli ham, leftover holiday ham, or even a slice of country ham, the heart of the sandwich is always that rich, salty ham paired with melty cheese. The cheese could range from a mild Swiss to a sharp cheddar, or even gooey American, depending on your preference. The real magic happens when the sandwich is pressed or grilled until golden brown, with the cheese oozing out and the ham perfectly warmed through. The bread choice, of course, is key to the perfect melt. It could be soft white bread, a sturdy whole wheat, or even a slightly crusty sourdough or rye, depending on your taste. Buttering the bread before grilling it ensures that it becomes crisp and golden, forming the perfect outer shell to hold in all that melted goodness. When you take a bite, you get the satisfying crunch of the toasted bread, followed by the warm, savory ham and melty cheese. It's a balanced, comforting bite with each mouthful. For the working man, the ham and cheese melt was the ultimate convenience food. It could be whipped up in just a few minutes, whether on the stovetop, in a panini press, or even in a simple sandwich maker. It was perfect for packing into a lunchbox, especially when paired with a side of chips or pickles, and could easily be eaten with one hand during a quick break. And if there were any leftovers, the melt would always taste just as good reheated the next day. The ham and cheese melt may not have been the fanciest lunch, but its comfort and simplicity made it an enduring favorite. It's the kind of meal that can be thrown together with little effort, but still hits the spot every time. Sometimes, it's the simplest things in life that are the most satisfying, and the ham and cheese melt is a delicious reminder of that. Dish 13, pot roast sandwich. The pot roast sandwich, a classic, hearty lunch that brings the comforting flavors of a Sunday dinner straight into your workday. This dish takes the best of a slow-cooked pot roast, tender and flavorful from hours of simmering, and reimagines it as a portable, easy-to-eat sandwich. It's the kind of meal that not only fills you up, but also reminds you of home-cooked meals that required patience and care, yet with none of the hassle when you're eating it at lunch the next day. Pot roast sandwiches were a popular choice for working men, especially because they made the most of a hearty, economical cut of beef. The beauty of a pot roast lies in its simplicity. A well-seasoned piece of beef, usually a chuck roast, was slow-cooked with onions, carrots, potatoes, and a rich broth until the meat was fall-apart tender. The result? A dish that tasted even better after it had a chance to cool, making it perfect for leftovers. Sliced thinly, that leftover pot roast became the perfect filling for a sandwich. When packing up a pot roast sandwich, the key was to make sure the bread could hold up to the juicy, tender meat without falling apart. A crusty roll or sturdy sandwich bread was perfect for this kind of meal. The richness of the beef paired with a dollop of horseradish or mustard for a little extra kick was all you needed to turn a leftover roast into a flavorful, satisfying lunch. Sometimes, a few thin slices of cheese, provolone or cheddar, would be added to create a melty, gooey texture. But the star of the show was always the roast beef itself. What made the pot roast sandwich so ideal for a working man's lunch was how easy it was to prepare in advance. You could make the roast on a Sunday, then slice up the leftovers to create sandwiches for a few days. The flavors only deepened as it sat, making each bite a little bit better than the last. A side of potato chips or a pickle perfectly complemented the richness of the roast. In today's fast-paced world, a pot roast sandwich might seem like an old-fashioned choice, but for those who've tasted its simple, slow-cooked magic, it's hard to beat. It's a sandwich that combines the best of comfort food and practicality, giving you a taste of home that you can enjoy during a well-earned lunch break. Dish 14, Sausage and Peppers Sandwich. The sausage and peppers sandwich. Now that's a lunch that could turn any ordinary workday into a flavorful affair. This hearty, satisfying dish has been a working man's favorite for years, especially among those who wanted something both filling and full of robust, savory flavor. Whether served on a soft roll or a crusty baguette, this sandwich is all about the balance of tender, juicy sausage and sweet, caramelized peppers and onions. It's simple, no nonsense, and packed with the kind of flavors that stick with you long after lunch is over. Sausage and peppers sandwiches are the kind of meal that doesn't require much effort but always delivers. The sausages, typically Italian sausage, whether mild or spicy, were cooked until golden and juicy, releasing their flavorful juices. Meanwhile, bell peppers and onions were sautéed until soft, caramelized, and sweet, creating the perfect contrast to the savory richness of the sausage. The combination of these ingredients was then piled high on a soft roll, creating a sandwich that was both satisfying and comforting. What made the sausage and peppers sandwich a favorite among workers was how easy it was to make in large batches. You could cook up a few sausages, sauté a heap of peppers and onions, and in no time at all, you had a meal that could feed several hungry workers. The sandwich was portable too. Just wrap it up and take it to work in a lunchbox or paper bag. Even after being packed and reheated, it still tasted great. There was something about the smoky, savory sausage paired with the sweetness of the peppers and onions that made this sandwich a meal worth looking forward to. For some, the sandwich might also include a sprinkling of cheese, either melted provolone or a sharp parmesan, adding another layer of richness to the already flavorful sandwich. But at its heart, the sausage and peppers sandwich was always about the sausage itself. The combination of the sausage's spices and the sweetness of the peppers and onions worked together in perfect harmony, making every bite something special. The sausage and peppers sandwich wasn't just a quick, filling lunch. It was a meal that satisfied your hunger and kept you energized through the workday. It might not have been fancy, but it was always reliable, hearty, and packed with flavor. And sometimes, in the hustle and bustle of a long workday, that's exactly the kind of lunch you need. Dish 15, Chicken and Dumplings. Chicken and dumplings, a true comfort food that has been a staple in American kitchens for generations. Hearty, filling, and soothing, this dish was the perfect working man's lunch, offering warmth and sustenance in one satisfying bowl. The beauty of chicken and dumplings lies not only in its rich, flavorful broth and tender chicken, but also in the fluffy, pillowy dumplings that soak up all the goodness of the soup. It was the kind of meal that could be made ahead, stored for leftovers, and enjoyed on a busy workday, filling you up without taking too much time away from the grind. The foundation of this dish was always a good, homemade chicken broth, rich and aromatic, often simmered for hours with vegetables like carrots, celery, and onions, along with herbs such as thyme and bay leaves. This broth was then poured over tender pieces of chicken, often poached or roasted, that would fall apart with the slightest touch. The real magic, though, came from the dumplings. These little puffs of dough, made from simple ingredients like flour, butter, milk, and baking powder, were dropped into the simmering broth, where they puffed up and absorbed the flavors of the chicken and the stock. Each bite of those fluffy dumplings, with their slight buttery taste, combined with the savory chicken, created a meal that was pure comfort. For the working man, chicken and dumplings were a meal that could be made in bulk, serving several days' worth of lunch. Whether stored in a thermos or packed into a Tupperware container, it was a dish that could be reheated and still taste as good as the day it was made. The thick, flavorful broth and soft dumplings made for an incredibly satisfying meal that could carry you through the day, no matter how tough the work was. While some versions of chicken and dumplings included a few more vegetables, the basic recipe was always about the chicken and the dumplings. The simplicity of the ingredients, nothing too fancy or complicated, was what made the dish so approachable and popular. It didn't require special equipment or techniques, just a pot, a little patience, and some time. Chicken and dumplings were the ultimate working man's lunch because they were hearty, comforting, and affordable. The flavors were familiar and satisfying, offering that sense of home-cooked goodness, no matter where you were. And in a world that often demands convenience, there's something special about slowing down and savoring a bowl of this classic dish. Dish 16. Macaroni and cheese. Macaroni and cheese, an iconic comfort food that never went out of style. This dish was a staple in many working man's lunchboxes for years, beloved for its simplicity, heartiness, and of course, its creamy, cheesy goodness. Mac and cheese was the ultimate in no-frills satisfaction, a dish that could be made quickly, eaten easily, and enjoyed by anyone who needed something filling to get through the day. Whether it was a homemade version or the quick boxed variety, macaroni and cheese was one of those meals that worked as both a main dish and a side, bringing comfort and joy with every bite. The homemade version of macaroni and cheese was the true working man's lunch. You didn't need fancy ingredients to make it. A few simple staples, elbow macaroni, milk, butter, and cheese, were all you needed to create a meal that was rich, satisfying, and affordable. The process was simple. Cook the pasta until tender, melt butter in a pan, add flour to make a roux, and then slowly whisk in milk to create a smooth, creamy base. Once the sauce thickened, shredded cheese was added, melting into a velvety sauce that coated every piece of pasta. A sprinkle of salt and pepper was all that was needed to complete the dish, though some people loved to add a dash of paprika or mustard powder for a little extra zing. What made macaroni and cheese especially great for lunch was its versatility. It could be made in a large batch, perfect for packing up leftovers for the next day's lunch. It was also a fantastic make-ahead dish. Made the night before, it could be easily reheated for a quick, satisfying meal that didn't require much effort. A side of steamed vegetables, or perhaps a slice of bread, was all you needed to complete the meal. For the working man, macaroni and cheese was the kind of lunch that could be eaten with a spoon while sitting at a table, or even standing on the go. It was hearty, filling, and left you feeling satisfied without being too heavy. In the days before fast food and prepackaged meals, macaroni and cheese was a reliable, affordable lunch that brought comfort in its simplest form. Despite the modern conveniences we have today, there's something deeply nostalgic about macaroni and cheese, a reminder that sometimes the best lunches don't need to be complicated. They just need to be warm, cheesy, and delicious. Dish 17. Fried Bologna Sandwich. The fried Bologna sandwich, a simple, humble dish that has been a favorite for generations of working men, often considered the epitome of a no-frills lunch. It may not be fancy, but there's something deeply satisfying about the crisp edges of a slice of bologna, paired with soft bread and a squirt of mustard, or mayo. This sandwich was the kind of meal that didn't demand much in terms of preparation, but always hit the spot. Whether it was packed into a lunchbox or made on the spot for a quick midday meal, the fried bologna sandwich was comfort food at its finest. Bologna, with its smooth texture and savory flavor, was an affordable lunch meat found in most homes. It was easy to store, quick to prepare, and could stretch to make a meal for several people. But the real magic of the fried bologna sandwich came when the bologna itself was cooked. A quick fry in a hot skillet would crisp up the edges, creating a perfect contrast to the soft, juicy center. The edges would curl up slightly, creating a slight crunch with each bite. This simple transformation elevated the ordinary lunch meat into something special. The bread choice for a fried bologna sandwich was essential. Soft white bread or a sturdy roll were both ideal. The bread didn't compete with the bologna. It simply provided a cushion for the deliciously crispy meat. A dollop of mustard or mayonnaise was often all that was needed to add just the right amount of tang or creaminess. Some people added a slice of cheese, usually American or cheddar, for that melty, comforting element. If you wanted to get a bit fancy, you could throw in a few pickles or a handful of lettuce. But the beauty of the fried bologna sandwich was in its simplicity. For many working men, a fried bologna sandwich was an affordable, quick, and filling lunch. It didn't require much time or money to make, and it could be eaten with one hand, leaving the other free for work. It was a meal that could be whipped up in minutes, but the combination of crispy Bologna, soft bread, and tangy mustard was always a winner. In a world full of fast food and takeout, the fried Bologna sandwich reminds us of simpler times when a good meal didn't have to be complicated to be enjoyed. Dish 18. Potato salad sandwich. The potato salad sandwich, a meal so simple yet so comforting that it's hard to resist. It's the kind of lunch that many working men would throw together when they were looking for something hearty, affordable, and satisfying. Made from a creamy, tangy potato salad, usually with a base of boiled potatoes, mayo, mustard, and a few finely chopped vegetables. This sandwich was often a leftover from a weekend BBQ or a picnic, but it was just as likely to be made fresh for a quick lunch during the work week. Potato salad has long been a staple in many American kitchens, especially during warmer months where family picnics, barbecues, and gatherings are commonplace. The beauty of potato salad lies in its versatility. While the classic recipe uses boiled potatoes, hard-boiled eggs, and a tangy dressing, variations could include pickles, onions, celery, or even a dash of paprika for extra flavor. The creamy texture of the mayo-based dressing, combined with the chunkiness of the potatoes, made it the perfect filling for a sandwich. The potato salad sandwich is the ultimate in practicality. You don't need much to make it. Just a batch of homemade or store-bought potato salad, a couple of slices of soft white bread or hearty rolls, and you're good to go. The creamy, slightly tangy potato salad is spread thickly between slices of bread, offering a satisfying and filling meal. It's a sandwich that doesn't need a lot of extras. The richness of the potato salad is the star of the show. For those who wanted a little extra, a slice of deli ham or turkey could be added to the sandwich for a boost of protein, or a few slices of crisp lettuce to add texture. But even without the extras, the potato salad sandwich was enough to fill you up. For a working man, this sandwich was perfect for packing ahead, easy to make, inexpensive, and hearty enough to keep you going through a busy afternoon. In today's world of fast meals and takeout, the potato salad sandwich may seem a bit old-fashioned, but it's a nostalgic reminder of the simple pleasures of a homemade lunch. It's satisfying without being overly heavy, and it offers a comforting taste of home that feels like a warm hug in sandwich form. It's the kind of meal that reminds us that sometimes the best lunches are the ones that require the least effort. Dish 19. Cabbage and Noodles. Cabbage and Noodles. A dish that's as simple as it is satisfying, and one that has been a working man's lunch for generations. This meal may not have the flash or the trendy ingredients of today's culinary world, but it's a comforting reminder of resourcefulness and heartiness, where humble ingredients come together to make something truly delicious. The combination of cabbage, onions, and buttered noodles creates a warm, hearty meal that could be enjoyed by anyone who needed a filling lunch without breaking the bank. Cabbage, often a budget-friendly vegetable, was a key player in many working-class meals. It's sturdy, keeps well, and can be cooked in a variety of ways, making it the perfect base for a simple dish like cabbage and noodles. The cabbage is chopped and sautéed with onions, letting the natural sweetness of the cabbage come through as it softens. Meanwhile, noodles, egg noodles being the most traditional, are boiled and then tossed with the cabbage mixture. A bit of butter and seasoning round out the dish, making it rich and flavorful without needing to rely on heavy sauces or complicated preparations. The beauty of cabbage and noodles lies in its simplicity. It's a dish that requires little more than basic pantry staples: a head of cabbage, a bag of noodles, some onions, and butter. There's no need for expensive cuts of meat or exotic ingredients. The cabbage adds a slight crunch and earthy flavor, while the noodles are tender and comforting. A sprinkle of salt and pepper is all you need, though some people might add a pinch of caraway seeds or a dash of vinegar for extra flavor, depending on regional or personal preferences. This dish is also incredibly versatile. Some people might add a bit of sausage or bacon for extra flavor and protein, but even without the meat, cabbage and noodles are still a filling meal. It can be made in large batches, perfect for feeding a family or for packing into lunch containers for the work week. It's easy to reheat, and the flavors often get even better as they sit. For the working man, cabbage and noodles were a practical, hearty lunch that didn't require a lot of time, money, or effort. It was the kind of meal that filled you up, gave you energy, and reminded you that good food doesn't always have to be complicated. Simple, satisfying, and warm. Cabbage and noodles remains a beloved dish that stands the test of time. Dish 20. Corned beef sandwich. The corned beef sandwich, a hearty, savory classic that has stood the test of time in working-class lunchboxes across America. Simple, yet satisfying, this sandwich embodies the kind of meal that could power a working man through a long afternoon, delivering the perfect balance of saltiness, tenderness, and flavor. While it may not be the most complex sandwich, it's certainly one of the most reliable, offering a big punch of taste with minimal fuss. Corned beef, a cured and brined cut of beef, has long been a beloved choice for sandwiches, especially in Jewish delis and Irish kitchens. The beauty of a corned beef sandwich lies in its ability to be both comforting and filling. When sliced thin and piled high between slices of soft rye bread, the corned beef delivers a tender, slightly salty bite that works perfectly with the bread's earthy, slightly tangy flavor. The combination is straightforward but unbeatable. Whether you're grabbing lunch at a deli or making it at home, corned beef never fails to satisfy. For the working man, the corned beef sandwich was the perfect lunch. It could be made quickly with just a few slices of corned beef, a couple of pieces of rye bread, and maybe a dollop of mustard or mayo. If you wanted to take it up a notch, a slice of Swiss cheese could be added, or maybe a few crunchy pickles for some extra tang. The sandwich was portable, easy to eat on the go, and could be packed up and enjoyed on a lunch break or during a brief pause in the workday. One of the best parts of the corned beef sandwich was how it could be enjoyed hot or cold. Some people loved it warm, perhaps heated on a grill or griddle, so the bread became crispy and the cheese melted into the beef. Others preferred it cold, especially when packed up for a lunchbox, where the flavors of the corned beef melded with the bread, creating a satisfying, savory bite with each mouthful. Corned beef was also a dish that could be stretched to make multiple sandwiches, making it a great choice for feeding a family or preparing for a week of easy lunches. It wasn't just a sandwich. It was a reliable, affordable meal that filled you up and gave you the energy to keep going. The corned beef sandwich remains a classic, proving that sometimes simple ingredients and a little creativity are all you need to make the perfect meal. Dish 21, Tuna Casserole. Tuna Casserole, one of those meals that you can't help but associate with comfort, simplicity, and practicality. This dish has been a working man's lunch for decades, offering a hearty, filling meal made with affordable ingredients. It's the kind of dish that doesn't require any culinary finesse, but still manages to deliver a hearty, satisfying bite. Often baked in a casserole dish, it was a meal that could be made in large quantities, perfect for feeding a family or for packing leftovers into lunchboxes for the week. The basic components of tuna casserole are simple: canned tuna, egg noodles, a creamy sauce, and a crunchy topping. It was a great way to stretch a couple of cans of tuna into a meal that could feed a crowd. The creamy sauce, typically made from a combination of cream of mushroom soup, milk, and butter, was the key to binding all the ingredients together. Once combined, the sauce coated the tender noodles and the tuna, creating a dish that was both creamy and comforting. The casserole was assembled by mixing the cooked noodles with the tuna, the creamy sauce, and often a bit of chopped onion or celery for extra flavor. Then, the dish was topped with a crunchy layer, often made from breadcrumbs or crushed potato chips, to provide a satisfying contrast to the smooth texture of the casserole. After a quick bake in the oven, the casserole was golden brown and bubbling, ready to be served up and enjoyed. For the working man, tuna casserole was the ultimate in practicality. It could be prepared ahead of time and baked off for dinner, with plenty of leftovers for the next day's lunch. It was a great make-ahead meal that could be easily packed into a lunchbox, ready to be reheated and enjoyed during a break on the job. The casserole was filling enough to keep you going, yet simple enough to make on a budget. While tuna casserole may not have the gourmet appeal of more modern dishes, it's hard to beat its heartwarming simplicity and versatility. It could be made with ingredients you likely already had on hand, and it could be easily customized with what you had in the pantry. It was a dish that didn't require much thought, but always left you feeling satisfied and ready to take on the rest of your day. Tuna casserole. Simple, satisfying, and always reliable. Dish 22, chicken pot pie. Chicken pot pie. A comforting, savory dish that's as warm as it is satisfying. This classic meal has been a working man's lunch for generations, offering a hearty combination of tender chicken, vegetables, and creamy sauce, all encased in a flaky, golden crust. There's something so deeply satisfying about cutting into a fresh, out-of-the-oven chicken pot pie, the steam rising from the filling, ready to be scooped up and enjoyed. It's the kind of meal that feels like a hug from the inside, and it's a dish that could carry you through the toughest of workdays. The beauty of chicken pot pie lies in its simplicity. The filling typically consists of cooked chicken mixed with carrots, peas, and onions, all simmered in a rich, creamy sauce made from butter, flour, milk, and chicken broth. This comforting mixture is then poured into a pie crust, either homemade or store-bought, and topped with a second layer of crust. Once baked, the crust becomes golden brown and flaky, while the filling inside becomes creamy and flavorful. What made chicken pot pie especially appealing to the working man was its versatility and practicality. It could be made in a large batch, ensuring there were plenty of leftovers for the next day's lunch. The leftovers could easily be packed into a container and reheated, maintaining that perfect balance of creamy filling and crispy crust. Even if you didn't have time to bake the pie from scratch, many families kept frozen versions on hand for those days when a quick, comforting meal was needed. Chicken pot pie also provided an opportunity to use up leftover chicken from dinner, turning it into a completely different meal. A simple roast chicken could be repurposed, making the dish even more affordable and efficient. The combination of protein, vegetables, and creamy sauce made it a balanced and filling lunch that didn't require a lot of extra effort. For the working man, chicken pot pie was a lunch that provided both comfort and sustenance. It was easy to prepare ahead of time, making it the perfect dish to pack into a lunchbox or store in the fridge for later. And whether you enjoyed it fresh from the oven or reheated on a lunch break, chicken pot pie was always a dependable, satisfying meal. It's the kind of dish that's as much about tradition as it is about the joy of simple, delicious food. Dish 23, ham and bean soup. Ham and bean soup, a dish that's been around for centuries, yet still holds a special place in the hearts of working men and women everywhere. This hearty, flavorful soup was the kind of meal that could take a handful of humble ingredients and turn them into something truly satisfying. With its rich broth, tender beans, and smoky ham, it was a perfect meal for a lunch that would keep you full and fueled for the rest of the day. Whether served with a thick slice of bread or enjoyed on its own, ham and bean soup was a classic comfort food that never failed to deliver. The beauty of ham and bean soup lies in its simplicity. A few basic ingredients, ham, dried beans, carrots, onions, and celery, were all that was needed to create a rich, flavorful soup. The key to making the best ham and bean soup was letting it simmer low and slow, allowing the beans to absorb the flavor from the ham and the vegetables. The smoky richness of the ham infused the broth, while the beans became tender and creamy, thickening the soup just enough to give it that satisfying, hearty feel. Add a pinch of thyme or a bay leaf for extra depth of flavor, and you've got yourself a meal that tastes like it's been simmering for hours, even if it's ready in just a few hours. For the working man, ham and bean soup was perfect because it could be made in large batches, making it ideal for leftovers. The beauty of the soup is that the flavor only gets better the next day as it sits in the fridge, making it easy to pack up and take to work. A thermos of soup was an easy, hearty lunch that didn't require much effort to enjoy. Pair it with some crusty bread or crackers, and you've got a meal that's both filling and comforting, all without breaking the bank. Another great thing about ham and bean soup is its versatility. You can use any variety of dried beans, Great Northern, navy beans, or pinto beans, depending on what you have on hand. And while the ham adds the signature smoky flavor, you can easily make a vegetarian version by swapping the ham for a vegetable broth, making this dish accessible to everyone. Ham and bean soup may be simple, but it's also a reminder that good food doesn't have to be complicated to be satisfying. It's the kind of dish that provides comfort and nourishment, the perfect lunch to get you through a long day of hard work. Dish 24, Sloppy Joe Casserole. Sloppy Joe Casserole takes the classic Sloppy Joe sandwich and transforms it into a warm, hearty dish that's perfect for feeding a crowd. This comforting casserole combines the rich, tangy flavors of the traditional sandwich, ground beef, a zesty sauce, and a soft, bread-like topping into a no-mess, one-pan meal. Whether served fresh from the oven or reheated, it's a beloved, practical lunch that provides both simplicity and soul-warming taste. At its core, Sloppy Joe Casserole uses the same ingredients that make the classic sandwich so satisfying: ground beef, onions, bell peppers, and a sweet and tangy tomato-based sauce made with ketchup, Worcestershire sauce, and mustard. After cooking the meat and sauce until thick and bubbly, the mixture is poured into a baking dish. The casserole is topped with a biscuit or cornbread layer, baked until golden brown. This bread layer absorbs the savory sauce, while forming a soft, slightly crisp top that perfectly complements the meaty filling. What makes Sloppy Joe Casserole such a hit for working men is its practicality. It can be made in advance, stored in the fridge, and easily reheated for a filling lunch the next day. The one-pan preparation makes it perfect for busy families, with minimal cleanup. The casserole can be divided into individual servings, making it convenient for lunches on the go. It's also inexpensive to make, using ground beef and pantry staples to create a meal that stretches to feed a crowd or provide several days of leftovers. For added flavor, some people top the casserole with shredded cheese before baking, creating a melty layer that adds richness. Others may add vegetables like peas or carrots, to round out the meal. The beauty of Sloppy Joe Casserole is its versatility. You can tweak the ingredients to suit your taste or use what you have on hand. Originally a twist on the classic sandwich, Sloppy Joe Casserole has earned its place as a comforting, practical working man's lunch, easy to prepare, enjoy, and always filling. It's the kind of dish that gets you through the day with hearty satisfaction. Dish 25, Chili Dog. The chili dog, an iconic, hearty dish that perfectly blends bold, spicy flavors into a satisfying meal. This simple comfort food became a working man's favorite for its filling, flavorful, and quick-to-make nature. A juicy hot dog topped with warm, spicy chili, often finished with shredded cheese and onions, the chili dog was portable and easy to eat, making it an ideal lunch whether purchased at a food stand or prepared at home. At its core, the chili dog combines two iconic foods: the savory, smoky hot dog, and rich, meaty chili. The chili, typically made with ground beef, beans, onions, and spices like chili powder, cumin, and paprika, creates a thick, flavorful sauce that complements the hot dog perfectly. The chili adds heat and depth, balancing the snap of the hot dog with its savory richness. The beauty of the chili dog lies in its simplicity. After cooking the hot dog, it's placed in a soft bun and generously topped with chili. A sprinkle of shredded cheddar cheese adds a melty layer, enhancing the chili's spiciness. Some like to add chopped onions or a dollop of mustard for extra flavor and crunch. The result is a satisfying blend of smoky, spicy, and hearty flavors in every bite. For the working man, the chili dog was the perfect lunch. It was easy to prepare, portable, and filling. Whether eaten at a work site, on a factory floor, or at a desk, it could be quickly made with just a few basic ingredients: hot dogs, chili, cheese, and buns. It was also an affordable option, making it a cost-effective meal for both individuals and groups. Despite its simplicity, the chili dog has stood the test of time as a beloved and satisfying meal. It's a reminder that sometimes the best lunches don't need to be complicated. They just need to taste great and keep you going. And the chili dog does that in spades. As we close the lid on this nostalgic lunchbox, we're reminded of something truly special: how simple, hearty meals could carry a working man through a day of hard labor. These lunches were more than just food. They were a testament to resourcefulness, tradition, and the joy of sitting down to a meal that didn't need to impress, just to satisfy. From the classic ham salad sandwich to the warm, filling bowls of chili, these meals were built to keep you going, offering both comfort and fuel when it was needed most. While today's food trends often focus on convenience or elegance, there's something timeless about these humble dishes. They've faded from the modern lunch scene, but there's no denying their charm. A plate of meatloaf sandwiches or a bowl of baked ziti takes us back to a simpler time when lunch was a moment to enjoy, refuel, and reconnect with the hard work that came before it. Maybe it's time to bring these classic working man's lunches back into our routines, whether it's for the nostalgia, the taste, or the reminder that sometimes a good meal doesn't need to be complicated. These dishes were made with love, practicality, and a touch of heart, and they still have the power to satisfy, just like they did decades ago. So, next time you're packing your lunch, consider revisiting one of these classic dishes. After all, these meals have stood the test of time for a reason. They're satisfying, comforting, and just downright delicious. Here's to honoring the past by bringing a little bit of that hearty, working man's spirit back to our plates.